Let's start with when you heard the news today that they were going to go ahead and make the move to sell this team. What was your reaction? What'd you think?
Well, my first reaction was that Blazer fans are going free. I mean, you don't get Cooper Flag, but maybe you get Phil Knight, right? I mean, the NBA draft lottery didn't break their way, but this ownership question and what is the cloud that has been hanging over the franchise since the passing of Paul Allen, it finally is lifting. Like the fog is lifting. You're going to get somebody in charge of this franchise that has a vision for it, that has a desire to make it a winner. It's felt like it's been a little rudderless. So I was just insanely happy for Blazer fans, especially the diehard fans who have stuck with this franchise through thick and thin. They deserved better, and I think they're going to get that in a new owner.
Do you think the fact that they didn't move up in the lottery had anything at all to do with the announcement coming today?
I can't help but think that that's correlated because they wait until the day after the draft lottery. And if you get Cooper Flag, maybe it's an entirely different equation. Maybe, Jody Allen and Burt Cold have got an appetite to ride it out and kind of see what happens. It's far less dynamic. You know what the roster is. You know what the draft pick position is. Instead of moving up, you move back. There's a lot of people that just think that this ownership decision is going to change the mojo of the franchise. And I kind of look at the bad luck that this organization has had over the years, and I go, hey, change of scenery, open the windows, breath of fresh air, get a new ownership group in there, get somebody in there that's going to have an investment that is not just an emotional investment as a trustee, but a financial investment. You're going to get some new stakeholders here.
Do you think fans should be concerned about the possibility of this team moving out of Portland?
That moving out of Portland thing comes up all the time, right, in this conversation. And I get why people are scared. They watched the Sonics get ripped out of Seattle and sent to Oklahoma City. But that was David Stern's biggest sin. And Adam Silver, who was his deputy commissioner, watched that go down. I have a real hard time believing that Adam Silver is going to want something like that to be on his resume and part of his legacy. He's trying to undo what David Stern did and put basketball back in Seattle. And I'll go further. The owners of the NBA, they're already counting what should be about $12 billion in expansion fees for the two franchises that are set to go to Las Vegas and Seattle, the worst kept secret in the league. They're not going to want to cannibalize that by allowing somebody to buy a team in Portland, a viable market with an arena that works and a fan base that's loyal. They're not going to want to let that team get ripped out of Portland and put in Seattle or put in Vegas and cannibalize $6 billion. I just don't see that happening. I think we're going to get a sale. It'd be really interesting to see if the potential ownership group could have local ties or not. There are a limited number of these franchises available, and as we know, the billionaires like to have them.
Yeah. Do the owners vote on whether or not a franchise could move? Do they have a say in that?
Yeah, the owners have to vote to allow a franchise to move. They also have to vote on expansion. And you can bet that these owners are looking at the Celtics $6 billion and they're going, hey, that valuation would apply in Las Vegas. That valuation would apply in Seattle very easily. They're counting that money already. And so you're not going to take a franchise out of a small market that is winning and supporting its franchise. It's winning from an ownership standpoint. And the league is not going to allow the Trailblazers to move. And Adam Silver's not going to want that either. He watched what David Stern did, and I think he learned from that.
Potential buyers. Phil Knight came up as somebody who said, hey, here's an offer. You could take this and we could move forward. Do you see Phil Knight still in the game or anybody else maybe come to mind?
I think, you have to really look at that Phil Knight offer, right? He's 87 years old now. It was an offer that he put together with Alan Smolinski, who is the Dodgers co-owner. He's a much younger person in his 40s. He's a real estate developer. He made his money at USC. He became the largest, landlord at USC, bought up all of the apartment complexes and all of the rental homes surrounding that campus when he was going to school there. That's where he made his fortune. So if you look at Smolinski and Knight, it's a really interesting play, and it's one that I don't think Blazer fans should ignore, even with Phil Knight's age. It's all about legacy for Phil Knight right now. It's legacy what he's doing with Nike. It's legacy what he's doing at the University of Oregon. Buying the Trailblazers would be part of his legacy and a nod to the city of Portland, his hometown, right? So you put that together with Smolinski, who is a developer, and suddenly the corridor around Moda Center, that underdeveloped real estate in the Rose Quarter that we've long talked about being an entertainment district, restaurants, other hotels and housing. All of that suddenly could possibly come to life with a Phil Knight, Alan Smolinski partnership. That said, I think there's going to be others out there. I think there will be other groups that jockey for position. These franchises now, the valuations are in the billions. People see a lot of upside with them. I would not be surprised to see, multiple offers here for the Blazers. And I think, they were waiting for the dust to settle in the Celtics thing. And then I think the league, after the Blazers sale, the league pivots towards expansion. And so I think these things are all correlated.
Do you think the future is positive for developing that area as sort of an entertainment center? I know that, there's been discussion of that for really quite some time.
Yeah, when I first got to town, it was 20-something years ago. I can remember the Blazers rolling the plans out and saying, this is what we're going to do in the Rose Quarter. And it was this beautiful entertainment district that was going to bring people there. It was going to make it safe to park there for a game. You don't have that right now. You've got an area around the building that is really underdeveloped. There's nowhere to really go out before the game, after the game. And it's really what Portland's lacking. It's that entertainment district that you see in so many other cities. So, yes, I think that whoever buys the Blazers would be foolish not to look around at the area around Moda Center, the other holdings for Paul Allen. He owned a lot of that property. I don't know if this could be grouped together as part of that sale, but I think you'd be foolish not to look at the upside of that, because this is not just buying a basketball team. That you're buying a development in a city that has been thirsty for something big and important to happen. I think Blazer fans should be performing cartwheels right now in their living rooms, because I think they're going to get an owner who is really going to be about trying to win and go for it. And you potentially are going to get an owner who also sees the vision of that surrounding area that could really be an asset to the city of Portland.
You're part of the management team of the Blazers. Head coach Chauncey Billups, Joe Cronin as GM. Are you worried when you hear we're going to have a new owner?
I thought it was interesting that they extended both Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups in the way that they did. It was almost as if, they were taking care of business, locking things down here. Status quo is what I called it when I saw that. And I thought, gosh, this is just going to be the same old, same old. Jody Allen had postured before when Paul Allen and Alan Smolinski made that offer. She had said, hey, the team might not be for sale for 10 or 20 years. It was an obvious slap at Phil Knight, who's 87 years old, saying good luck trying to get this franchise. But now it's finally for sale. And so I think, we're all kind of looking at this and going, wow, Joe Cronin locked up, Chauncey Billups locked up. I don't think those guys have to worry beyond 2 or 3 seasons. This won't happen until 25, 26. So I think those guys are okay for now. But whoever comes in and buys this organization is going to want their own people. That's true of all sports teams.
Yeah. You think it'll slow down the process of maybe bringing in different players? I mean, we've got the draft, and it's not a pick that's going to probably help the team right away. Maybe a play would be in trade. Do they put the brakes on things like that?
I think they'll be very careful about long-term contracts with free agents. I would be surprised to see the Blazers do anything that wasn't very, judicious and very thoughtful when it came to free agency. I think with draft picks, they'll let Joe Cronin go out and try to pick the best player. I think on the court, they'll try to win as many games as they can. They'll try to make the numbers look as attractive as they possibly can on the balance sheet. They're going to want fans in the building. They're going to want sponsors signing on. This is a Portland market that's about to get some competition with the WNBA. Already has some soccer franchises that are threatening to cannibalize some of the revenue. There's potentially Major League Baseball on the horizon. Whoever comes in and buys the Blazers had better be ready to do business in the right way, because I don't think this is the same old Portland. This is not a one-horse town in the way that it used to be.
Yeah. Anything else you can tell us?
I just think it's neat to see Jody Allen finally let her grip of this franchise go, because I wondered, I got to be honest, I thought, is this like a joke? Is this April Fool's Day? Is this a prank? I had to check and make sure, because for so long, I have just felt like this franchise has been stuck. And it's just nice to see a little glimmer of light and Blazer fans with maybe something hopeful to talk about and think about as it pertains to their basketball team, because you just can't operate with a trustee. You just can't. It's not the same as having somebody who loves the franchise, who is invested in the franchise. It's just, there's no precedent for this. You know, if you don't have skin in the game, you're not in the game.